This is Felt Recoil.
Welcome to the Felt Recoil Podcast, episode number 37, Hulon?
Yes, sir.
My name is Chris. Straight across from me, my hetero life mate, P-Mag Hulon. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm fantastic. Before we get to anything else, just a big night here on the show. I won't say a lot because I would just ruin it. I wouldn't do it service. But the incomparable Mr. Larry Vickers will join us momentarily via the cell phone.
I'm pumped.
And, man, let's not blow it. Let's sound like we know what we're talking about, and let's look handsome. Before we do that, at Mr. Vickers' request, by the way, this week's charity of choice is the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. This is a tax-exempt nonprofit organization that provides college scholarships and educational counseling to the surviving children of special operations personnel killed in the line of duty. The services are provided throughout the U.S. or overseas, depending upon where the surviving children reside. Please visit specialops.org. That's specialops.org for more information on the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. Okay, without further ado, on the phone now, Mr. Larry Vickers. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing?
We're fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for joining us.
Nope. You're welcome.
You must have nothing else to do. I can't believe it. All right. If you're unfamiliar, get out from underneath the rock under which you live. Larry Vickers is a Delta Force combat veteran. He's a combat marksmanship instructor, an industry consultant to find a top-tier firearms company and name them. He's likely consulted with them on something. He helped train the team that captured Saddam Hussein. He helped design and develop the HK-416, which was used by Naval Special Warfare personnel when they killed Osama Bin Laden.
It's pretty awesome.
As if that's not enough, big on YouTube. Real big on YouTube. So maybe you've seen him there.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. Larry, before we get into one question.
Well, real quick clarification. I trained some of the guys that were on the mission to capture Saddam Hussein. I was a combat marksmanship instructor for actually some of the guys who were on that mission. So a little bit of a clarification there, not necessarily trained specifically the team.
Oh, I see. Understand. Yeah. Okay. So you had trained them, and then they went out and did the deal anyway.
A number of guys on that mission I had trained as their combat marksmanship instructor when they first came in the unit.
We're going to ask you one question 5 times, but before we do that, of all these things on your resume, you've worked with some huge names, including the development with HK of the 416. You worked with Surefire, Daniel Defense, FN, just to name a few. Of those or any other accomplishments, which one of those you'd say you're the most proud of?
Well, let me answer that in 2 parts. Number 1 would definitely be the 416. That's the high water mark.
Yeah. Outstanding.
Because of its use by various special operations units, involvement, its use in the Bin Laden mission. That would definitely be the high water mark. Second to that, the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart, actually 2, would be my affiliation with Bravo Company USA, because the owner is I consider a personal friend, and my affiliation with Blue Force Gear, because once again the owner is literally like a brother to me. So from a personal point of view, in terms of my passion, and it would be Bravo Company USA and Blue Force Gear. In terms of my pride, I guess you could say, would be the 416.
Well, nobody can blame you there. All right, we're going to play one question 5 times, and we'll roll into it. But it does occur to me, I think you're the only person I've ever thought of that could almost answer all of these questions with something you've done personally.
Yeah.
Meaning Vickers Glock. You go Vickers Glock, Vickers Guide to 1911, and on and on. But we're going to ask anyway, okay?
Cool.
All right, Mr. Larry Vickers, what's the one gun you think everybody should own?
It would have to be, if I had to pick one, it would be some variation of the AR-15 or M4 carbine. That, to me, is America's rifle. In my opinion, that's the one gun. Everybody should own one of those. They kind of pick their flavor, whether they want a piston gun or a direct impingement gun and what brand they like. But in my opinion, everybody needs to own something along the AR-15, M4, M16 line. That would be the one gun.
I could agree. I always think that's a great answer because it's probably the only style of gun you can go buy, build from the ground up, and make it all your own as well. Like, obviously with a few restrictions, but...
It's an amazing weapon. I mean, we just did a 2-book series in the Vickers guide on it. I was a big AR guy and always have been, but doing the books, you really got to get into the weeds on them, and you got to really try to articulate to somebody. You don't assume they know everything. You got to try to articulate to them in a coffee table book in a concise fashion, something that grabs their attention and whatnot. And it's an impressive gun, a very unique gun. The story of how it came about and how the popularity of it now is just astounding. So it's a very unique weapon in small arms history. I've never seen anything that's been accessorized like the AR, the M4. I mean, nothing's even close. Not even in 1911. In 1911 would probably be a distant second in that regard in terms of how it's been accessorized. But the AR is the one gun that everybody needs one of, without a doubt.
And what's the one book you think everybody should read?
Boy, that was a tough one because there's so many good books.
You got that right.
I would say, and I can tell you this is a tough one, and I'll be the first one to admit that there could be any number of books people could choose, and I would say I would give them, kudos. I'd say Band of Brothers.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Big World War II guy. World War II is the most significant event in basically in human history, certainly within the last century. And it's really defined this country of what it is today. When you look at what the United States was before World War II and then what it has become after World War II. World War II was the defining moment. And you got to, pick one book. And I think Band of Brothers would be a good choice to kind of show people the sacrifices that Americans made, to fight in World War II. That's the one book that I think everybody should own and read.
Yeah. Nobody can take away from that. I mean, Greatest Generation for a reason. And not to be that guy about it, but that's actually, of all TV shows and movies, etc., the Band of Brothers miniseries on HBO is the one thing I have seen more often than absolutely anything else.
It's superb.
Can't get enough. Can't get enough.
That's the one book. Yeah, that was a tough one. That was the tough one.
All right. So then it must be easier to tell me which album everyone should own these days.
Easy, ACDC Back in Black.
Oh, wow, really?
Falling off a log. I didn't take 2 nanoseconds thinking that one through.
This is a stupid question. ACDC, of course. Move on. Any particular song? What's your favorite song off that album?
Shoot to Thrill.
Shoot to Thrill. Okay.
I mean, I got a million. I mean, I like them all on there. But Shoot to Thrill, and I consider it to be the best rock album in history, and I consider ACDC to be the best rock band in history. So that was, for me, that was literally like falling off a log.
So is Axl Rose like your Antichrist then? Is that how that works?
No, it's not. I'll tell you why. I actually saw them on the last tour with Brian Johnson and Axl Rose.
Okay.
And I'm a big Brian Johnson fan. I kind of cut my teeth on Brian Johnson. I started liking the band with Back in Black. So then I kind of discovered the older albums with Bon Scott. I like them all.
Sure.
The first thing I'll tell everybody is the only 2 original members from the beginning were Angus and Malcolm Young. They were the only 2. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, well, they're the only. No. Yeah. The band that did Highway to Hell or Back in Black was not the original band. The drummer had been replaced. The singer had been replaced. The only original members were Angus Young and Malcolm Young. So to come in and say, well, that doesn't hold water. Now it's Angus because Malcolm's health issues. And I'll be honest with you, I thought Axl Rose did an outstanding job filling in.
Okay.
I thought he did excellent. He really did. I'm a big Brian Johnson fan, and always have been. But I got to be honest with you, for the last X number of years, his voice has really been suffering. Axl came in and did a bang-up job, so I had no issues with him filling in. And to me, it boils down to this: would you rather see him just completely hang it up, or would you rather see them drive on with Angus and who he puts together and Axl Rose?
Yeah.
And I'd rather see him drive on. I'm not ready for the AC/DC chapter to be over yet.
That's pretty high praise.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. I really did.
I feel like that's a really objective way to look at it, too. So,
yep.
AC/DC, Back in Black. Okay, Larry Vickers on the Felt Recoil podcast. Number 4 is, what's the one movie everyone should see?
Another tough one. Especially since Dunkirk just came out, which I thought was superb.
Really?
Oh,
I haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's pretty much his masterpiece, Nolan's finest work yet.
It is outstanding. Once again, another tough one. I hate to be. I guess one movie, Saving Private Ryan. That would be, if you could say one miniseries, of course, would be Band of Brothers.
Sure.
One movie, probably Saving Private Ryan. Dunkirk was damn good. I don't know that I would say as an American it's the one movie you should see. I think something like Saving Private Ryan would be a movie that would probably trump it as an American in terms of bringing the sacrifice across that took, to execute D-Day. So I'd probably Saving Private Ryan.
We'll stick with it, Saving Private Ryan. So Larry Vickers gets in a time machine, goes back, and can talk to his 18-year-old self. What's the one piece of advice he offers?
Fortunately, I would just reinforce something that I kind of, that got me through my military time was stay focused, stay healthy, and stay out of trouble. Because I get various people who will reach out to me in social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and hey, I'm about ready to go in the military, or my son's about ready to go in the military, or whatever. That's what I tell them: stay focused, stay healthy, and stay out of trouble. And if you stick to that, and fortunately for me, I was able to largely stick to that when I was in the military. I mean, nobody's perfect, but I would go back and tell myself, hey, man, remember these simple rules and live by them. So stay healthy, stay focused, and stay out of trouble.
Let's do a quick review of One Question 5 Times with Larry Vickers. The gun is an AR-15. Your choice. Go out, build it if you want, or buy something. But Larry says that's the way to go for the one gun you should own. The book is Band of Brothers. The album is ACDC's Back in Black. Shoot to Thrill, specifically, if you're looking for a single track. And the movie is Saving Private Ryan. And then the advice would be to stay focused, stay healthy, and stay out of trouble, which I could give to myself at 18, except I would have to put the word get at the front of all of them. Get focused, get healthy, get out of trouble, stop being you. And then I'd have been okay. Okay, here's a general knowledge question. We were having a debate 2 days ago, and you were the perfect person to solve this debate. We were watching some training videos, YouTube ninjas that we are, and the discussion was, if I'm training for a real-world scenario, let's just put ourselves in a Starbucks, okay? And guy walks in, I have a clear shot on the guy, and for some reason, I take a couple shots and I have to change magazines. That's the idea. Practicing for real-world scenario mag changes. Does Larry Vickers advise that I train by just dropping the mag on the ground, or do I maintain control of empty mags, situate them in hopes of using them again later?
Well, now, so I'm assuming based on your question that the guns run dry.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
for
sir.
whatever reason, without question, drop the empty magazine on the ground and get ammo in the gun immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're close enough to be using a handgun, that empty magazine, retaining that empty magazine could cost you your life. Because essentially, it's like my buddy Dave Harrington says. He has a great line: take as long as you want to reload the gun. You just have the rest of your life to do it. So you want to screw around and put away empty mag away, or check your, pick your nose, or check your Instagram status, or you want to do any of that when you're reload, drive on, because you're basically you're betting your life on that. Hey, you know what? I'm willing to bet my life on the fact that I need to stow away this empty mag.
Okay.
For the handgun, I can hardly ever think of a scenario where when you're using a handgun where retaining an empty mag is going to be critical. If you look at within the realm of handgun usage, offensive or defensive, retaining an empty magazine is really not on the radar screen.
Understood, and makes perfect sense.
Yep. So, no, without a doubt, drop the empty on the ground, get ammo in the gun immediately.
Okay, so changing gears a little bit, we talked at the top about some of your partnerships with BCM, Blue Force Gear. Also, you work with Tango Down, Wilson Combat. You've written several books now. Obviously, your videos are huge. So my question for you is, of all those things, what's next for Larry Vickers?
Boy, that's a good question. I tell you what, we're now just launching, which is new for me. Kind of a natural evolution, but it is new, is a blog. We are starting to launch a blog. And I'm busy beyond description. So in terms of me running the blog, it's really not viable. But my co-author, James Rupley, who runs the Vickers Guide website and all that, he's also the photographer and whatnot. He's going to orchestrate the blog and ping me for content. So we're just now, today, we did our first blog post.
Is that at Vickers Tactical?
It's on vickersguide.com.
Vickersguide.com. Okay.
Yeah,
Vickersguide.com.
What's interesting is, it's bizarre to me, but it's true. As this book effort grows, and it all, we've done 1911 coffee table book. We've done 2 AR coffee table books. All of them have been huge successes. We obviously have more planned. More and more people are aware of that and less aware of Vickers Tactical and what goes on under the Vickers Tactical side of the house.
Sure.
And vice versa. You have people that are Vickers Tactical fans that say, buy my signature Glock or buy my sling or buy my Glock parts from Tango Down or whatever. They're oblivious to the book. So
interesting.
Yeah. Now, I don't think there's a lot, but there's definitely some people out there that are in both those camps. So we're now going to kind of, they'll be co-supportive, of each other, but they're going to be separate entities. Where the Vickers Guide, and we're just going to start directing more things that way that make sense in that realm.
Just trying to make those circles kind of
Intersect.
cross in, and intersect with each other. Sure.
Well, the other thing is we get so much pictures and content and all kinds of stuff that, as you can imagine, doesn't always necessarily fit neatly in the book, but it would make great blog material. So, it was a good idea. My co-author brought it up and said, I think this is something we should do. I want to get it going. And I said, hey, absolutely. We just did our first blog post today, and he's going to ping me and say, man, I need something new for the blog, and we'll just keep it going. Hopefully we can get it growing and kind of help support and build and the Vickers Guide side of the house.
Okay, so I just noticed that I'm looking at vickersguide.com, and I'm taking a look at your books, and I noticed that each of the 3 books that you've got all are 352 pages. Is there a certain significance to that?
I tell you, because the 1911 book came in at that number.
Huh.
And when we started doing, the next one was AR. It was like, what are we going to do next? The first off, the 1911 book was a success beyond our wildest dreams. We sold out in 5 months. I'm still astounded at how well that book's done. So that launched this whole thing. Well, then we got to thinking, what's next? Well, clearly the most popular handgun in American history, the 1911, is the first book we did. It makes sense. Let's do the most popular rifle in American history, the AR-15 series, M4, M16, the whole AR-15 family. And we have to think, well, that's obviously, you could make a massive book on that topic. I mean, just massive, or you could do multiple volumes and whatnot. And then we really started looking at it. Well, first off, it's just not feasible to do the book any bigger. If you've seen the coffee table books, they're very large format. They're 11 inches by 13 inches. They're almost 1.5 inches thick. They weigh almost 8 pounds.
Wow.
You do not want a book any bigger than that. So we figured, okay, this envelope is as big as we want it to be. So we kind of laid down some groundwork or some rules to live by. Number one, if we don't have a topic that we don't feel we can do justice in a coffee table book this size and this template, 350, we're not going to do it. And then number two, if it boils over to a second volume, then we're going to, basically the books are going to be formatted basically the same. Moving forward, you may see pages shift a little bit here and there, a few more, a few less, but it's all going to be right around that 350 number. We're going to format it in that regard. And then the other thing is, last but not least, when they're on the shelf or whatever, they complement each other. You can tell they're part of the series.
Smart.
Yeah, they look good. They I almost feel like calling it a coffee table book is an undue disservice to it, because they are just beautiful in person. FDE covers and all that kind of stuff that really sets them apart from from other books that might just get displayed, thrown out there, and forgotten about. When you're in this process of choosing the book you're going to write and the subject matter for it, is it something where do you dive deep into making sure it's a completely original idea, or does it just have to be a completely original approach to possibly an idea that's happened before?
Well, yeah, definitely a completely original approach. These books are, I think, a big part of the reason why they've been so successful so far is that it's nobody else has done anything like this. So it is an original approach, albeit potentially on topics that have already been covered. They have certainly not been covered in this way. And then we just kind of start looking, what makes sense and how do we package it together? Is it a topic that can stand on its own, or is it a topic that needs to be in a more broader topic? So instead of doing a book just on the G3, now the HK G3, we have a G3 segment in a battle rifle book. So, you know what I mean?
I see.
So
yeah.
What makes the most sense? Now, obviously, HK book would be a no-brainer. And honestly, we envision, we kind of have a wish list in what we plan on doing moving forward, but a 2-volume HK set is kind of a no-brainer. They've made far enough different, small arms to cover 2 volumes, different variations, prototypes. So if we can get access to that material, that's a no-brainer. 2-volume HK set covering their weapons is, without question, is something that we got on the radar screen. Whereas we flip over, we may go to a different manufacturer and go, well, they're a single volume. So
sure,
yeah, it's kind of I'll give you an example. We were seriously considering the next one being a Glock book. We were going to go back to a single volume.
Yeah.
We did 1911 single volume, although we were already talking about down the road doing a volume 2 1911 book. There's certainly enough material, and we're getting more and more people coming our way with stuff that we could definitely fill a second volume. But that's not something we're going to do, within the next year or so. That's going to be a little ways down the road. But we started looking to Glock. Let's do a single volume. Well, honestly, we scratched the idea. We said, okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Down the road, when we do a modern service pistol book, obviously the Glock will have a significant section of that book. But we can't justify dedicating a whole book on a gun that essentially looks the same, whether it's in 380 or it's in 45 ACP. And there's very few variations to it. It's just not, the topic is not interesting enough to justify us putting the Vickers Guide resources on a Glock, sold. So we scratched it.
Fair enough.
Makes
what I
sense.
mean? It
Sure.
And the last thing I was going to do is just turn into a glorified Glock annual.
Right. Yeah. And
page after page, and there's, this is a Glock,
well, if you don't feel like the content is going to be there, yeah.
Yeah, and then you've seen what the books are about. It has to have unique material in it. It has to have stuff. Every time somebody buys one, they know they're going to see guns or learn things that they've never heard or never seen before. It has to have that. And that's another criteria. If it doesn't have that, then obviously we need to move on to a different topic.
Is there an answer to the question of what does Larry Vickers do when he's not working? And if there is, what is it?
I'll tell you what it is. It's honeydews.
Right.
I travel, I'm filming, I'm doing classes, this and that and the other. When I come home, my wife always has a list of stuff for me to do. As a matter of fact, just before I got on the phone with you guys, I was out doing honeydews. So that's what I'm doing now in my off time. Usually, honestly, watching movies, researching stuff, different conflicts, different small arms, just kind of a variety of things.
So it sounds like you're almost at a point where what you enjoy doing is quote unquote work anyway. If you're researching different things that can one day become, a business venture for you.
Yeah. And, I remember seeing an interview a while back with Donald Trump's kids, and they were talking about, what does your dad do to relax? This before he was elected president. It was when he was already announced his son, Don Jr., said, good Saturdays when your dad doesn't call you at 5:30 in the morning and ask you when you're going to get into work. I mean, and my dad isn't the kind of guy that's going to go out to Vail, Colorado and ski for, 10 days.
Yeah.
That's the way I am. I take a weekend or 2-3 days and go do some leisure activity at the beach or this and that and the other. That's enough for me. I'm ready to get back to work.
Just wired that way, constantly grinding.
Yeah,
huh?
it's just work is, work is my enjoyment. I enjoy what I'm doing.
Nothing wrong with getting fulfillment from that.
Yeah, I agree. And that doesn't mean, I certainly need leisure time and whatnot, but I mean, I just eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, particularly anything gun related. I've been that way since I was little, and I've been able to make a good living doing it, and it's definitely my passion. Yeah, there's times, and like anything, you get burned out and you need a break, but it's all you're doing there is taking a break and then refresh the batteries, and then you're going to get back at it.
Well, I know we've already surpassed our time, so we want to say thank you and let you get back to your honeydews. But one thing I think we'd be remiss to not touch on, you are hosting classes. We intend on taking one in the near future because you're actually, I think, less than a couple hours up the road from us at one of your locations. You're in our home state now doing classes in South Carolina, so we're excited about that. What is someone looking forward to? What's going to be the takeaway from a Larry Vickers class?
I tell you what, good question. What I have really endeavored to do is to try to boil this stuff down to hopefully concepts and techniques that you can practice on your own that will work for you under conditions of stress. Trying to really break it down to the bare minimum. Have you ever heard the story, the analogy, Einstein said, if you can't explain the subject to a 6-year-old, then you don't understand it yourself?
Sure. Yes.
I totally believe that. I mean, I'm signed on to that. So what I really try to do in my classes is really boil the stuff down to get the message across on what's important and what's not and why. And these are the things that you can do on your own. That with no fluff. This is the stuff that you can do on your own. That if you ever have to use one of these firearms for real, hopefully it'll allow you to see the sun to come up the next morning. That's my endeavor. I tell you, I've always kind of been that way, but it's like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And that's really been my push over the last X number of years. Let's get down to the real core details with no fluff, with no fancy, no fancy drills or nothing. Basically what you need to know to apply this stuff in the real world to come home alive.
Yeah, I think you're kind of hitting on one of my pet peeves is when I meet people who have taken a class and they only brag about the number of rounds they fired. Yeah, man, I went and we shot 2,000 rounds in a day. Woo, learned so much. Well, okay, but what did you learn? Well, I shot 2,000 rounds. Yeah. Right. But what was the takeaway? What can I take with me? What knowledge can I glean from you to go apply for myself? And the ones that brag about the mag dumps are usually ones with the less amount of knowledge. So.
And they're definitely not the ones that need to come to my class.
Good. All right. Mr. Vickers, Thank you so much. We do appreciate it. And
thanks a lot.
Hello from Dalen at Laserworks as well. I know we have a mutual friend there.
Good. Yep.
We appreciate it, sir.
Regards. You guys have a good one.
You do the same. Thanks so much.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yes, you will. Thanks. That was Larry Vickers, man. I don't know if you know Larry Vickers. He's
who?
Yeah. I do want to say this. I wasn't gonna say it on the phone with him, but and I'm not gonna. I don't want to dilute the awesomeness of having him on the show with our usual shenanigans, so we won't sour it with that. But I do want to say this, and I didn't say it on the phone because I didn't want to sound like I was blowing smoke. But Larry Vickers, obviously super busy guy, and when we were at NRA in Atlanta, I passed him. And he had commented on the video we made of the Vickers Glock 17 that I own. And he gave it a like. And he said, hey, great, appreciate it or something of that nature. And I stopped him and said, hey, just wanted to say I made a video of your product and you left a comment and it was great. And he stopped, took a second and said, hey, all right, great, man. Appreciate it. And shook my hand and said, have a good one. And I said, have a good one. Just seemed like a nice guy and seems like it even more so. So VickersTactical.com and the Vickers, just VickersGuide.com. So it's VickersTactical.com and VickersGuide.com.
There you go.
You can find out more about Larry Vickers there. Also, don't forget to check out this week's charity of choice. It is the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, and we'd love to have you visit feltrecoilshow.com and get more details on the nonprofit organization that provides college scholarships and educational counseling to the surviving children of Spec Ops personnel killed in the line of duty. Special Operations Warrior Foundation. We'll see you next time for more of the Felt Recoil Podcast.